Hi guys, this is algebra, topic 1, lesson 5, example 1. And when we do lesson 5, example 1, we're talking about inequalities. Inequalities are the exact same thing as equations. They're solved exactly like equations are solved, except we have a few simple rules to help you to get to the solution. One of the things that you'll have to remember is an inequality is something that has more than one answer. So an equation, we had x equals one thing, we had one real solution, or we possibly had infinite solutions because one side was exactly the same as the other side, or we had no solution. In this case, we're always going to have multiple solutions, but there may not be infinite solutions because it may not be the same. It may not go all in one direction and all in another direction. So make sure you pay attention to this. So what is an inequality, guys? An inequality is this. You've seen these symbols throughout your entire mathematical career. When we read this symbol and when I write it, I'm going to read it like a book from left to right. It says greater than. So this means greater than. Okay, now for graphing purposes, you're also going to need to know that greater than means that you will graph it with an open circle. Now you may not know what the open circle means just yet, but I'll let you know that the open circle is kind of like a boundary for your answers. It's not an answer, but it is a boundary. Okay, this one is read as less than, greater than, and less than will both have an open circle on the graph, so you know that it is just a boundary. This one is greater than or equal to. This one is less than or equal to. And both of these will be graphed with a closed circle, which means you'll have a circle and that circle will be shaded in. So I just kind of ran those two together right there. Okay, down here you have something that means that is an equal sign. It's just a mathematical symbol you may see. But this is the equal sign that means does not equal. So this just means not equal, just in case you run into that through these. Okay, the other thing that you'll need to know about inequalities is when you solve them, when you multiply or divide by a negative, you switch the sign. This is the only real rule you have for inequalities. Okay, these rules over here are basically for your graphing and what they are. That is the rule for the inequalities. This is the number one key rule you have to remember in every single one that you're working on. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all of this. If you'd like to pause, you can pause and you can write that down. And I'm going to show you now how to solve one of the inequalities. So our first inequality, we're going to solve it just like we did the equations. This side of the inequality is not simplified, so we have to simplify it. Negative 4 times 3x is negative 12x, and negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. I don't include this in the distributive property because it's not inside the parentheses, so this is just positive 6x, and that still stays as greater than or equal to 1. Over here, we're still not simplified because we can combine like terms. Our two like terms are negative 12 and positive 6. So if we have 12 negatives and 6 positives, that means that when they battle, we'll end up with 6 negatives. So this will be negative 6x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 1. So now both sides are simplified. So I always put a box around this so you know you simplified the expressions. So we have to start doing the properties of equality. To do the properties of equality, we're going to get these two constants together. So in order to get rid of positive 4, we have to subtract 4 from both sides. So we're going to take 4 away from both sides. So over here, we'll only have a negative 6x. And we keep the symbol the same for right now. And 1 minus 4, or positive 1 and negative 4, means we'll have negative 3 over there. To get the variable all by itself, we're going to undo the multiplication by doing division. So we're going to divide both sides by a negative 6. Now remember that rule that was up there. If we divide by a negative, that means you switch the sign. So we're going to divide both sides by a -6. And we're also going to switch this sign to its opposite. So instead of being greater than or equal to, it's going to be less than or equal to. -6 divided by -6 is just 1. That's where we get our x. And negative divided by a negative, guys, will give us a positive. We don't necessarily have to leave that as a positive 3/6. Okay, we're just going to rewrite it as 3/6 because the negatives will get rid of themselves. A negative divided by a negative, positive. But we'll also simplify this down to 1/2. So x is less than or equal to 1/2. The second part of the inequality is we have to graph it. So when you graph it, you have to create your own number line. So here's how you create your number line. I typically only put 5 numbers on. That's plenty. X is less than or equal to 1/2. Now this is where you come in with the open circle or the closed circle. Since it's less than or equal to, it's a closed circle. So you're going to put a closed circle at 1/2, which is right here. And then the second thing you need to do when you read it is it says X is less than or equal to 1/2, which means all numbers, integers, fractions, decimals that are less than or this direction has to be shaded. So the number line needs to be shaded and the arrow has to be shaded, which indicates that 1/2 is an answer because it's less than or equal to, and everything below the number 1/2 is also an answer to this. So if you would like, you can put in the number back here in your simplified version. If I put a 0 in here, for example, that's part of the answers. -6 times 0 is 0, and +4 greater than 1 or equal to 1, and that is true. So we know that this one is true.